The presence of the CHR family, headed by its chairperson, former colleague in the House, Chairperson Eta Rosales. You are recognized, ma'am. You may proceed, and good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Actually, I don't intend to read all these broad mandates and so on and so forth. I mean, I think this is the CHRs, the National Human Rights Institutions, and so on. I just want to go into the essence, the context of where we're at right now. And that's going to be short and essential. Then we go into the funding. The CHR, well, it's since the time of the... Oh, titindig ka, alis ka. Eh, gusto kong pakinggan mo eh.
Ate si Nancy.
Anyway, the CHR is as old as the Constitution, 1987, it was set up and so on. It had its mandates, there were about, in section 18, it had its mandates, its broad mandates, and it's really described here. We investigate civil political rights and so on and so forth. Since that time to the present, there have been some 10 new human rights laws that have been adopted. And these laws had very serious, additional functions for the CHR. But these laws did not bring about new resources, new organizational arrangements, and so on. So that's one given. Some of these laws are here already. I don't know where the pages are, but for you to understand what laws there were, page,
So, parang in shorter, you're saying na
From the charter.
na-approve ho itong mga batas na to, pero walang
ito.
funding.
Walang funding. For the CHR. Kasi ang bawat law, merong dagdag na additional functions ang CHR. Halimbawa, sa anti-torture law, dagdag yan, oversight functions and promotion. No? And then you can go on, Magna Carta of Women. Kung Magna Carta of Women ang pinag-uusapan dito, wala ring additional functions dito, pero ang ibig sabihin nito, ang CHR ang siyang nangangasiwa mismo dun sa pag-iimbestiga ng problems ng kababaihan, both sa kabataan at saka sa mga adults, no? So and so on and so forth. Then you have your IHL, you have Anti-Enforced Disappearance Act, Human Rights Victims Reparation and Recognition Act of 2013, and I'd like to zero a little on that because you're so familiar with that.
Actually, ma'am, I
Chair.
chaired the committee that passed all of these laws.
Yeah, well, so you're so familiar with this. Now the context,
Anyari na.
the context here is dagdag ang mga trabaho ng CHR pero walang additional resources, material, organizational, and personnel. No, what has happened here is a situation where unfilled positions, but I can go there, have actually been taken to brought to the savings na ito, MPBF, no? Miscellaneous Personal Benefits Fund. Okay, there's 53 million there. Now, we're not gonna argue much here, but the essence is that today, the additional functions of the CHR are such whereby, I'm just gonna take the latest, the 10368. We have had to reach out to the provinces. We have 15 regional offices and 4 sub-offices provincial level. But the way things are right now, we have to have field offices, which we don't have. This is one context that is very real and very necessary. A second, that's the first given, the human rights laws without additional resources. The second given, which I would like to address is, it's strange, we're talking about the Bangsamoro basic law in Mindanao. Our own reports from the region show us there is increased extrajudicial killings and warlord rule. This does not come from the military or the police necessarily. It comes from politicians and their private armies. Ito yung bago. The good news, I think, of course, you still have your police problems, you still have your military problems, but at least the good news here is we have what is known as the Labresa Declaration, we have security sector reforms, and we are very serious in addressing, the concerns of both at the promotion level and at the protection level of the security sector. We've gone some way, and that even includes the PNP, the AFP, the BJMP. That's why we know the congestion conditions of all our jails. 200% ang average. Ang worst case scenario is Dagupan, which is 600%. Or Kidapawan ba yun? Or Kadapan Jail, which is 400%. Ganon. Quezon City, malala din.
Can you give us that report, ma'am?
All right, I'll give it to you. I'll have it sent to you. So, in other words, what am I saying? We need more personnel. We need more resources in order to address all of this. And I'm proud of the regional offices. I'm proud of our personnel because, with all our limitations, marami silang nagagawa. Pero ang apila ko, tingin ko, dapat idagdag ang resources tungkol dito sa mga bagay na ito. Sa 10368 lamang, in particular, Chair Cheese, punta ako sa Samar Island, no? Ang Samar Island, andyan ang mga dioceses. And ang ginagawa namin ngayon sa pagtulong sa implementation of 10368, remember there are two attached organizations there. They may call themselves independent, but necessarily because they're new organizations, the CHR has to help them along the lines. Doon sa claims board, ang pinupuntahan namin, we help in human rights violations, documentation. And these are massacres in Las Navas, massacre in Palembong. Ang dami ko nadidiscover. Ngayon, nandun sila sa Hulo at saka Zamboanga. These are things that we are now going deeply into. And I think that it's fair for us to root out these problems so as to finally have a closure as far as human rights violations are concerned, tracing this back to the Marcos period. Then you have your Memorial Commission. Of course, I'm also helping there. It's an attached organization, and once we are able to archive, and the good news here is we are helping to archive evidence. We have 7,000 files already collected. We're getting the National Archives to help us, and we are archiving this evidence, which we will bring to the Memorial Commission, which will go to the museum. So, all that work is being done right now. Having said that, I'd like to say that right now, the funding that is given us is, let's now go to the funding, it's 321 million. Inalisan na naman kami ng 5.8 million. Tama? Because of the, it has to do with some personnel, the deduction came from the personnel at saka yung capital outlay. Sana may balik na lamang yon kasi yung capital outlay, nagpapatuloy naman ang improvements na ginagawa right now. Ang usapan namin with the University of the Philippines, ultimately, we will have to set up a new building. But right now that we are busy helping in the attached organizations, we need to improve our own building and our own resources. So sana ibalik na lamang yun. Because kakailanganin namin 5.8 million. No? I think yun lang yun eh. This is all came from the DBM.
Ma'am, question. What's the status of the HRVV Claims Board?
Okay, fine.
Is it functioning?
Of course, it's functioning. It's
It took quite
functioning.
some time before the president filled it up.
Oh, yeah. And that was my frustration. Now, nagmamadali sila.
Because it's time bound.
Yeah, it's time bound. And that is my appeal. My appeal to the president, and I'm appealing also to you. I don't think we'll be able to hack it effectively. You want effective documentation and application of yung human rights violation victims to give them reparation. Ang status niya ngayon, I think they've collected 10,000, 9 to 10,000 applications, but that is not validated. It is not yet verified to be qualified. It's about 4 out of 10. So they're talking about siguro mga 4 to 6,000 pa lamang. They're already in the middle part. It's already August now. September, October, November. They end up November. They're not gonna make it. That's why my appeal, my suggestion is magkaroon ng amendment, parang contingency lamang yan, to extend it for another... joint resolution. Yeah, that's right.
A joint resolution is more apt, ma'am, because it's
oo.
temporary in nature, not permanent, and seeks to address
Yeah.
a gap in the law.
Okay, that's true. A joint resolution would do it. Extend it for another year because it's gonna do a lot of help. And this is my insight.
6 months, ma'am.
6 months nga.
Ang delay naman
Another
kasi
6 months is all para 1 year.
the delay is 6 months eh. The delay in the filling up of the position, it took 6 months eh.
Sige.
Roughly. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, another 6 months.
Okay.
Because the opposite side, the victims, have waited long enough too. If you give them a longer period of time, it's a longer period of waiting time for the victims.
Sige. Yeah. Okay, so that's fine. And that would be very, very helpful for them.
Ma'am, may 341 naman kayo. Kami, wala kaming ganun. Can you draft the joint resolution already and give it
Yeah,
to us so
sure.
that we can author it?
Yeah.
Kayo na bahala sa House?
Ah,
Mag-file ng counterpart?
sige.
I'll file it here.
Sige.
But kindly send us a draft.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Can I also mention the Memorial Commission? Kasi dala-dala pa rin namin yan eh. This all came from the DBM. Yung 2014 budget is 21 million. Hindi pa na-approve ng DBM. And then the 2015 budget is 500 million. Now, the 500 million, there's this accrued interest. It's in the law that you people, adopted. Of course. As people adopted, yeah. And the 500 million is there. Now, the way it's coming out, what do you call this? The museum is a standalone. They want it in Fort Bonifacio, Global City, kasi doon nga naman yung, alam mo na, pinaglalabanan ng Makati, Taguig, at saka Pateros yata yung lugar na yon. But, I couldn't care less. Basta ang mahalaga, gusto nila na nandoon. Si Palacio ang may gusto. Ang Palace. Kasi ang bias ko is in UP, where you're setting up a university human rights complex. But since the Palace is more powerful than I, so it's the Palace that pushes through. So it's a standalone, and it's going to have its own advisory board and so on. But in the meantime, actually, gandang-ganda ako. In the meantime, we have DepEd, CHED, CHR, and UP, including the NCCA, really working on the archiving. Maganda siya talaga, and I'm very proud of that. So that's it. And then right now, this 500 million, I hope it's not, we were not able to submit it to you, but we have to present this. Dapat isama ninyo. Ayun pala. Yun na ba? Ayun. 500 million is the budget for the Memorial Commission. Ang essential offices nito they'll do archiving, they'll do library and research, of course the finance, and the public information, research and documentation of human rights violations during Marcos regime. My insights in the work that is being done right now is that, if you remember the class suit, si Bob Swift, You remember that? That was the private endeavor. That was an accumulation or a list of activists. But what we are now discovering, the list, is made up of the masses, unorganized people, who, because the NPAs passed around their areas, etc., sinalakay ng mga militar. So, ibang klase ito. These are unorganized, they're not activists, ang marami sa kanila. Kaya marami sila. And what this means when you are talking about the rule of law, to me this is very important, is that they have no access to justice, they have no access to services, and and so it's very, very important for us to do the documentation to help them access there. I just want to remind you, the committee, that the 500 million, by the way, is not included in the fiscal year 2015 of the NEP. Wala. It's not there. Kung pwede lamang. O, pakitanong lang sa DBM.
Ma'am, are you aware of that?
Sir, we'd just like to clarify, the 500 million for the Memorial Commission is an off-budget account. It's an automatic appropriation which will be funded from the accrued interest.
Interest of the money which is in the National Treasury that's in a trust account.
Yes, sir. So it's basically...
Can we have a report on that? Because...
May we know how much it is now?
Sir, the latest that we have, the one given by BTR, is amounts to only around 52 million.
Yung interest.
Yes, sir.
Yun ang mali. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because I've studied that and I have reported this to the DBM and they have recognized it. And then I have spoken to the National Treasury. What's her name? Sally De Leon ba yun? Rosalia De Leon. Hindi 53 million or 52 million kasi yung 53 million na yan is the account that was transferred way back in 2004. Kabisado ko yan eh. Way back in 2004, noon transfer yan sa Philippine government. That was the time. So, yung 53 million pa lamang yun. Pagkatapos nun,
So 04 to 2014 is a totally separate amount.
yeah. At saka yung 2004, from 2004, 35 billion lahat yan eh, di ba? That was transferred. Yung 35 billion na yan, so much X amount went to agrarian reform. So what is of interest to us is to get the interest accrued from the 10 billion pesos, which was actually allotted for the claims. Noon pa lamang yan, even during our time, we were already talking about 10 billion pesos or $200 million that we should get from the Swiss accounts. And what we should really get to know is how much money has there been from 2004, from the time that it was brought to the Philippine government to the present. And I've asked Ms. De Leon to...
Mr. Chair?
Ma'am, give us your study so that we
Yeah.
can inquire from the National Treasurer and compare notes with them. Yes, Assistant, with the indulgence of Senator Binay. Yes, you wanted to continue? Ma'am?
Yes, sir. I would just like to put in the latest data that we have, sir. We have received this in August, just this month, precisely because we brought it up to the CHR.
How much,
that the certification they gave us earlier, the BTR is only 52 million. And when we brought this up with CHR, the BTR gave us an amount of 639 as of August 2014. 639 million.
Thank you. So we have enough.
Yes, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Binay,
I was just asking sana for the documents. That
kindly
pertains
submit
the
that to us, ma'am. So wag na yung study nyo, ma'am. Kindly just submit that to us, ma'am. Okay na, ma'am. 600 na eh. Baka mabawasan pa. Okay na yun. Ma'am, just a few questions. How much money do you have tucked in the MPBF?
3 million. 53 million.
It's in the MPBF. Not with you, ah. It's in them. That's part of the 118 billion.
Last 2012 yon.
Ano ma'am? I'm talking about 2015.
Ay, hindi nga, wala. Nandun na. No? Wala sa amin. Since 2012, hindi na bibigay sa
Yeah,
amin.
53 million.
So, it's 53 million
And
doon.
from 2012, hindi naman kayo nagdadagdag ng empleyado?
Hindi, meron na nga. May mga dagdag kami. But subject to request. So,
So, ilan ho na-approve dun sa ni-request nyo?
dun sa na-request namin noong 2014, there were 6 lawyers and 2 investigators. Noong 2013,
Approved do yun?
there were 12. Oo.
So, pero more or less, baka ho yung MPBF nyo is still around this figure.
Siguro.
53 million.
Basta ayaw lamang nila ibigay. Ganun na lang yun. Eh.
But they give it as soon as you request.
They give it naman.
Walang tinanggihan.
Ha?
Wala pong tinanggihan.
Baga, ano yung actual request nyo to fill up the position? Tapos ilan lang ho yung in-approve? Ilan ho? Lahat naman ng ni-request.
Patagal lang period of approval. How long?
Actually, ma'am, this is one problem we're looking at. Also for the information of Senator Nancy. I think she was the one who asked this question during the DBCC meeting. Unfilled positions, according to them, since nasa plantilla po yan, kailangan talagang pondohan ng gobyerno yan. Hindi pwedeng hindi pondohan. Understood. Ang tanggap ko yun. But if it takes you a while to fill it up, to hire, to screen, and if it takes them a while to approve it, ang pinopropose nilang pondo sa amin is the salary for that permanent plantilla position for 1 year, plus bonuses. So, ganun kalaki yung savings na ma-generate mo out of this practice. So, kunyari kayo, may ma-hire kayo by June, edi may 6 months ng savings for that item and half of the Christmas bonus. And so on and so forth. So, from your point of view, it's 53 million minus those items. Tama
Mr.
po.
Chair, idadagdag ko lang.
Yes.
Tapos kitang-kita naman natin dun nga sa DAP, talagang kinuha dun sa MPBF kasi yung bulk of the savings came from this fund.
Now, next ma'am, on savings.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
siguro tatanong ka, kasi di ba ang reasoning ho ni Secretary Abad kung bakit niya pinull together to, kasi daw ho yung mga agency head, binobonus lang daw sa mga empleyado. Noon, kasi kinuha na nga niya yung bonus, di ba? So,
No, it's not true.
comment?
I mean, well, that may be true of the past. I don't know. I don't know the past. But where I'm at right now, my argument is that what I said, dagdag na mga human rights laws, dagdag na trabaho, dagdag na pangangailangan for us to go to the field offices. And I'm all over the place. And it's a reality.
Siguro, I guess, like, nung, di ba 2012 lang naman ito na-implement. For example, nung 2011, anong pinagastusan nyo dun sa savings na na-generate nyo from PF?
May partly bonus which is I think being done by everybody. But my whole point is, it's not as if hanggang bonus lamang. In fact, the bonus is kung ano man yung maiiwan doon. But the way things are right now, as I said, urgent yung mga questions. Halimbawa, you know this thing about the wheel of torture? I was telling this to the DOJ, and I want you people to know it because, halimbawa yung wheel of torture, pinuntahan namin yan. Tapos we filed cases para to file cases and magkaroon ng closure once and for all. Doon sa mga cases na yon, pagka nandun sila sa DOJ, at ito yung rule of law na sinasabi pag pumunta ka sa DOJ, tinatakot nung mga nag-torture, yung alleged perpetrators, tinatakot nila yung aming mga witnesses na mga tinorture nila doon sa loob ng kulungan. So nagreklamo ako sa DOJ. Diyan mismo sa lugar ninyo, walang safety, walang kaligtasan ang aming mga witnesses. Ano ba naman yan? So, nag-aatrasa ngayon to. O tinatakot sila, o binabribe. You know, all of these things take place. And so, as I said, it's every step of the way you have to complain. Oo. Tapos, yung mga families pa nito mga ito, Yung mga families nila, ito sasabihin ko sa inyo, ang witness protection program namin, we get all kinds. But we have to take even families, children, etc. It's not a rosy job, really. So we have 6 witnesses, 500 with families yan. So ito hindi ito nakasama, hindi ito nakalagay dun sa equation. So pinaghahati-hati namin ito. Anyway, ganun lang yung sitwasyon, no? We need more resources. That's why, again, I will appeal to you. You understand this, Chair. Cheese, yung aking kwan. Tapos na yung human rights violations ng Marcos. Yung charter bill is on top of my agenda ngayon. And if I have to visit you all over, hindi na nga pala ikaw, ano? Oh, wala na, waka na. Sa finance ka na. Si Coco nga pala.
Siguro, Mr. Chair, last question. Nahingan ho ba kayo ng DBM ng proposal ng mga projects na pwedeng i-fund ng DAP?
This is to certify that per our official records, the Commission on Human Rights has not received any funds from the Disbursement Acceleration Program for the period January 1 to June 30, 2014. Further, the DBM did not provide guidelines or either ask the CHR for any projects, programs, activities chargeable against DAP. Likewise, the corresponding budget appropriation for the CHR and field positions amounting to 53 million for calendar year 2012 was transferred by the DBM to the miscellaneous personnel
Ma'am,
benefits
what
fund.
about previous years?
Previous years? No.
2014 lang ho yan, January to June eh.
Wala rin.
Di pala ho kayo special.
Hindi. Definitely hindi kami
Kindly
special.
submit that certification to us, ma'am, for our records.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Nancy.
I move that we approve the budget of Commission on Human Rights.
So moved, there being no objection, the proposed budget of the CHR as well as the points raised by its distinguished chair, Chairperson Etta Rosales on additional funding requirements and the points raised by the chairperson and Senator Nancy are noted with those submissions and the submissions required by the chair of the CHR. The budget of the CHR is hereby approved and submitted to plenary. Congratulations, ma'am, and good morning.
Morning and thank you very much
Thank you, ma'am.
to the committee.
Hindi na ho kami magkapakain, ha?